hope everybody is doing well. So today we are going, well, tonight we're going to talk about organized pedophilia and grooming. And I wanted to put out a contribution to the zeitgeist as it relates to this Jeffrey Epstein case, whatever. But more so, I want to focus on the system that allowed it to go on for so long, and then how it was able to go under the radar. So if you look at these pictures over here, we look when we think about pedos and groomers, we think about unattractive men. We think about men first, and we think about unattractiveness and what they look, sort of smell a kind of way, and kind of unkept. And these things are true, right? And most things, and not the stereotype, but it's just really what it is. But when we talk about the systems and when we move into organized pedophilia and grooming, then we get into the more structural side of things, and this is where we have the traffickers, right? The recruiters, the ones who come in and train and groom the young girls and feed them viciously to the young men. And these women, most times, were more than likely trafficked themselves. They were bred to become emotionless, to be able to take advantage of people like that. And there's just lots of dynamics that go into that. But when we're talking about organized pedophilia and grooming, we're speaking about access to power and beautifully, aesthetically beautiful people, not just the women, but people, but women more so, because in this Epstein trial, there were four women that were named that were co-conspirators whom he worked with very closely that are not being held to account. Therefore, women like her and others behind her will continue to feed this structure of human trafficking to these powerful men. And that's done so because when you think about a pedophile or a groomer, you don't automatically think woman, you don't think attractive in a conventional sense, and you don't think nefarious intentions, because most times beauty is associated with safety and stability, and people are nice. But when you wake up and you see the other side of things, then you can see that duality does exist. And these women who traffic these young children and groom them, they do so because these children are not on alert or on alarm, because they're being approached by someone who's been highly trained, okay, to be able to notice which child seems vulnerable and open, and two, they've had structures that back them down, that back them up, and so. But I want to talk about how this system of corruption is being made possible, and these women need to be held account, right? Ghislaine is not getting her just due. She's getting off really, really easy. But let's go ahead and move into the presentation. I am going to make it full screen. I'll go move back and forth between it. So let's go ahead and get started. All right. So organized pedophilia and grooming, as you can see, this is what they normally look like, what we think of them as, and that is true. But this is where we never see them coming. All right. So let's talk about media literacy 101. Sex and violence and control is pretty much what we. If you ever studied journalism or media, there are programs in place that are used to obviously influence your decision in one way or the other as it relates to a topic. And when we're talking about sex, within media, oftentimes we see lots of scenes where sex and violence are, they coexist, right? And they use that in media to change the way that we view things, change our point of view, steer us towards one way or the other. And ultimately, it's a form of control, all right? And for the purpose of this presentation, we're going to talk about the way that they are releasing these files and why they are releasing them in such a disgusting way in a disorganized way, and what that does to how this psychological operation is what it's doing to the zeitgeist, the population. So there's this concept. It's called the Overton window. And if you think about it, if you look at the picture right here, this is a person, and just think of this as like your mind. And it goes from the unthinkable to radical to acceptance, sensible, popular, then policy. And so it was developed in the 1990s by Joseph P. Overton of the Mackinac Center for Public Policy, and it involves it moves as societal values evolve, allowing ideas that once were considered unthinkable to become mainstream through advocacy, media, and shifting public opinion. So, if we think about maybe, 2020 pre-COVID, right? We would not even, we couldn't even fathom the idea of a mainstream news article talking about someone eating babies or drinking adrenochrome or things of this nature, and the files being released. I mean, these things are just wild conspiracy theories, right? We couldn't imagine seeing someone get shot, on TV like that. Now, I'm not against it because his character was a bad character, but the point is, the way that he was murdered on TV, it was a part of like a soul murder. Like, you shouldn't have to have viewed that, but we would have saw it on a movie where we could have chose to go watch that. And so because it was on social media, it was voluntarily shown through the feed. And some of these Epstein files, they have disturbing images, and some people who are not very considerate do not prompt their audience before posting these things, and so random people are now getting exposed to these evil deeds, right? And so it's important that we are aware of what's happening and how that is very intentional. And I have a video about that a little later, and this lady explains it super well. She calls it guerrilla style psychological warfare, and that's a very appropriate, accurately named term, because it is very much so psychological warfare on the mind if you don't know what's going on. So this is why we're here. We're here to make sure that you are aware and staying focused of what's going on, and two, in order to assist with the zeitgeist and be part of the resistance and help, we can hold them accountable without being consumed in that way. We don't need to watch every single video to know that y'all are disgusting, right? And so that's just what that is. And so the Overton window, with these files being released, with Trump coming out and fake news, and with AI, making people, just all types of stuff that AI is doing, that they have to regulate, and they're manipulating videos and whatnot. So, but the Overton window is being moved, right, from what we could once considered unthinkable, which was kept underground, into radical. We're never going to let this human trafficking be acceptable. So what we're fighting for now, we're fighting towards the apathy of it all. we're fighting against people saying, well, they're just elitists, what they're going to do. No, that's not okay. Why? Because it's not an individual thing. It's organized, right? And so that's what we need to focus on. These are structures and systems that are in place, and they have been in place for a long time. All right, so but this is why we're doing this, and that's why media literacy is important to understand, and the connection between sex and violence. And when we're moving into the ground and we're talking about how they use sexual blackmail, this is where we're getting into the media literacy part about. So, all right.
After years of being kept apart, we're standing together.
Standing together.
Because this girl deserves the truth.
Because she deserves the truth.
Because we all deserve the truth.
This is Virginia. All right. So again, this is part of the reason why we're doing this. Well, the main reason, obviously, right, to give to support the victims and with their voice. If you're not aware, Pam Bondi, they had a hearing. There's just no account being made, and so what we're doing is we're putting this in the ether and we're holding them accountable spiritually, and hopefully it'll come down and manifest itself in that way. So these women that traffic these young ladies um, can get their justice. Now, notice this lady Virginia did say that she had been sent to recruit other girls, but instead she found love and decided not to. Now, I don't know her whole story because I'm not gonna dig into this because it's a lot as it relates to sexual violence and deviance. Um, but when it comes to whistleblowers, I appreciate the information. I really really do. If you harm someone though, you need to be held accountable too. You feel me? That's just what that is. And so she said she was sent there, but who's to say that she hadn't done that to other girls before? So victims like her, we take her information for at a grain of salt, and we keep it pushing. But these other ones who are here speaking and advocating in Congress for justice, we want them to get that justice as well. All right, let's keep going. Sorry. Okay. So again, that's always reminding ourselves we are aware of propaganda. We are aware of psychological operations. We are changing those narratives. We are extrapolating the negative information. We're naming the names and holding people accountable and controlling our minds. And so we know that propaganda there are pieces that are aimed at everyone. They want to feel believe it's slow, it's obvious, but it's constant, and it just measures its psychological operations. They're aimed specifically. They want you to do something. It's timed. The source is hidden. Okay, but mostly we focus on how propaganda piece affects the psychological operations. All right. Now I want to focus on how this has been going on since time immemorial, which means that moving forward is more than likely not going to stop because it's a script of this world. However, the script can be altered and rearranged in a way to where it's fair, right? So back in the day, kings have always, kings and powerful men have always surrounded themselves around beautiful women, right? It's always been, one to two powerful powerful men surrounding themselves around harems of beautiful women. Going on back then, it's going on now. It's our popular podcast that have that same. They're trying to mimic that same structure, and most times these ladies are promised a couple dollars, opportunity for fame and notoriety, and access to those. It's pseudo power, but nonetheless, they have that opportunity to put themselves there. It's what they tell them. Okay. Same for this is a Fresh and Fits podcast. And then Love and Hip Hop. This is a guy named Lemmy, and this is Natalie. And these are the ladies that are on the podcast. But as you can tell, it's organized pedophilia and grooming, right? Um, all right. Now, you say, well, who are they? Why are you saying it's pedophilia and why are you calling it grooming, right? Because these things are targeted, right, and they're targeted towards television and who watches television, right? Everybody does. Okay. Now, whether what you watch on TV is different, right? You might watch videos, you might stream or whatever, but you're watching, you're consuming the media, right? And so what they're trying to do is influence the mind um, by mimicking these old world structures that prey to our older part of our brain, our reptilian brain, right? And so they're trying to mimic that. And most times, what they do is they place these women in these rooms with promises of fame and fortune, and they most times never deliver, right? And the women have to go through lots of trauma, lots of sexual abuse, exploitation, and the ones who do make it out. If you've seen that movie Blink Twice, you know if they've got the proverbial pill, which is a real pill too, though, you know, or that makes them forget about their trauma and keep going on because the benefits are, you know, are what they thought that they wanted, but they were in too deep to do anything about it, so they thought. But it's been going on since time immemorial. But let's continue. All right. So this is Judge Allison Nathan. I think she's on the Supreme Court now, not our Supreme Court, but like Florida or whatnot. But this was this lane. She was found guilty of facilitating the abuse of underage girls for Epstein. But she was saying that she shouldn't be held guilty because she was covered in a non-prosecutorial agreement, but they didn't have to. So she was a bit surprised when she got arrested. But so after his arrest and after Epstein's arrest and suicide in 2019, the U.S. Attorney's Office said that it was not bound by Florida's agreement that named Sarah Kellen, Leslie Groff, Adriana Ross, and Nadia Markinova, and they could be subject to criminal charges, and they all have denied involvement or knowledge of the abuse. But this is the lady that who's in jail, and she feels like she shouldn't be prosecuted because she maybe was a victim herself, but she literally recruited these other women for them. But she's locked up and she's more than likely being protected. So Leslie Gross, the groomer, Sarah Kellen, Lopez, all of these girls, these women actually are they work within this network. This guy too, I can't remember his name, but he's a dirtbag too. And this the girl Kellen, the one right here, when she was a bit younger, she was accused by lawyers and legal filings of bringing girls to Epstein's mansion to be abused. Her name came up in a witness testimony during a prosecution phase of Maxwell of Ghislaine's trial, when the government's key witness, known as Carolyn, alleged that Kellen scheduled her sexual massages with Epstein and paid her $500 to pose for a naked photograph when she was 14 or 15. You feel me? So these girls know exactly, these women know exactly what they're doing to these young girls, right? And this lady, the gross lady, she introduced a child. I'm gonna play this video, but her name was Jennifer Arose. I don't have a picture of her, but she was in Epstein's New York. She was the assistant for him for 20 years, and in December, in a civil case brought against her by Jennifer, she accused Epstein of sexually abusing her at his mansion in '01 and '02. So let's go ahead and...
Epstein accuser Jennifer Rose is now suing his estate. Rose first spoke to NBC News about Epstein's alleged sexual abuse, and now her lawyer, Kimberly Lerner, is also talking about the case.
Jennifer was a 14-year-old child.
He was a predator. He groomed her. He had help. And everybody who helped him should be held responsible for ruining Jennifer's life. There was a whole network of people that enabled Jeffrey Epstein. They made his appointments. They hired his recruiters. Maxwell participated, not necessarily with Jennifer, but it was an entire group of people that enabled Jeffrey Epstein to perpetuate this, this abuse. And Jennifer was one of the victims. Had Epstein not killed himself, I believe there would have been a superseding indictment. However, Jennifer has been identified as a victim. She is fully cooperating, and she will continue to cooperate because the case is not over. This wasn't a one-time incident. This took place over a year. Jennifer had details that have never been made public. Jennifer had, just artwork and just the specificity in which Jennifer was able to explain her story. They were able to corroborate because they did execute a search warrant of his premises. So there was no doubt that they found her credible. For so long, there was self-blame. She thought she was the only one. And she was a 14-year-old girl. She thought, I'm so stupid. How did I fall for this? There was self-blame. She came from, she had lost her father. Her mother was on welfare. He groomed her. And there was so much suffering. This is about reclaiming her power, becoming a survivor, not a victim, and getting what she deserves. She has real damages from this. She dropped out of school. She never pursued college. She never pursued a career. And, there have been lasting damages. He hurt her, and he needs to be held accountable.
Indeed.
Epstein accuser
And not only did he groom her, Leslie Gross, she trafficked him. And she groomed him. She groomed her by taking pictures of her or whatnot. You know what I mean? These women are traffickers. They're predators, and that's what they do. And they need to be held accountable. And shout out to Jennifer Aurora. So,
Epstein accuser Jennifer.
All right. Now this lady, Nadia Martinkova, was his pilot, bro. So she's the pilot that flew the children to be trafficked and abused them herself. So she is amongst the worst of the worst, and she is not in jail at all. And she needs to be held accountable, right? Because she flew him. She flew that dirtbag around. And that, I can only imagine the amount of people that she's trafficked and done that with. And so the amount of, so she needs to be held accountable as well. And so the other lady that was in there, one of the aforementioned, Ross, a former model from Poland, was moved from Florida in 2002. She was hired to work at the financier's mansion. Ross, who's also known as Adriana Makunskia, often flew on the financier's private jet, according to the flight records. So asked during the civil litigation about how the Epstein conspiracy operated, and if Prince Andrew had ever been involved with underage women, she just invoked her Fifth Amendment rights. So this is probably why we never heard of her, because it's like tied over to England or whatnot. But it's still, you know what I mean, makes sense. And so she was facilitating these men. And then the Markova lady, that's her right here. This pilot who did that and flew them. Now, this particular link right here is one that I want to kind of focus on a little bit later in a separate video, but it talks about how he reportedly paid doctors to medicate his sex slaves. And if you ever seen that Blink Twice movie, it is just it's perfect. You know what I mean? It talks about how they do that and how they drug women. But I want to take some time and develop that video, so that's gonna probably take a while. But I want to put that in the mind. All right. Now, before we play this video, I just wanted to come in and just make sure that that we're still on track here. Okay. Now, this presentation is about organized pedophilia and grooming, right? So it's about how we, as a nation, before our awakenings, we all pretty much view pedophiles predominantly as men, and unkept and uncouth. But now, when we're learning about organized pedophilia, organized grooming, human trafficking, now we know that there's a different look to them. And most of these women are found seeking opportunities for fame. They're found in modeling circles, secretaries, personal assistants, things of this nature. And they're oftentimes promised fortune and fame only to be exploited, taken advantage of, and never having the full realization of what they promised, of what they were promised, or what they were seeking due to all of the trauma. And these things happen so often, especially now in these reality shows, or not reality, but reality shows and podcasts, these streaming podcasts where these men are there and all of these women are around, and there's drugs and alcohol, substances everywhere, and it is just a mess, debauchery. But it opens up that way for this human trafficking organizational structure to continue, because people won't control themselves. And when they do, when they reach a certain status, power level status, then there's room for blackmail, especially if you are doing things you're not supposed to be doing or things of that nature. And so that's where blackmail comes in, when I guess you get too powerful and they be doing the most. But shout out to this judge again. All right, so I want everyone to pay very close attention to this video and what this lady says. It's a bar. It's a bar. And let's go ahead.
We should listen to our lawyer friends when they're talking. The mama attorney says, the method with which the Epstein files are being released is deliberately designed to
And sorry, I can't speed it up, so or else I would.
put you in a psychological trance. This is their strategy. Here's how I know this. In trial practice, when there are exhibits involving violence, children, or extreme harm, we do not simply dump information into the room. We go back and forth extensively about how and when something is shown. The judge guides the process. Experts contextualize it. It is a container equipped to hold this content. Courts understand that when the brain is flooded with horror, your system gets hijacked by the primal brain. You go into hypervigilance, rage, obsession, and collapse. We have a name for this: reptile theory. Reptile theory is a trial strategy built on this premise. If you can bypass the cognitive brain and activate the primitive survival brain, the oldest reptile part of the brain, you can control outcomes without ever persuading on facts or law. This strategy is not allowed at trial.
You hear that? This strategy is not allowed at trial as it relates to them. But I will say lawyers do use this, and they are aware of your reptilian brain. And this is what happened when we were prompted to view that murder. And I think this is of Renee Good, of Alex Pretty, that boy named Charlie Kirk, all of them guys, right? It's like straight up mass murder on TV, right? And we're being it's being fed to us, and so but we're aware of what's going on, right? But we're not letting it infiltrate our souls inside. But for the people who are asleep, this is a beautiful, beautiful warning, and it's worded so perfectly. But let's go ahead and keep going.
This is why trials involving extreme harm rely on structure. The law does not do this to protect perpetrators, but to protect the jury. What is happening now is the opposite. There is a massive document dump with no categorization, containment, or guidance. The onus is placed entirely on the reader to make sense of chaos. There are random redactions that force the brain into constant guesswork. You have to deduce, infer, fill in the blanks. This keeps the mind spinning, searching, looping. You may have assumed that they are sloppy. They are not. This is a known strategy. The most ruthless corporate defense lawyers fight cases this exact way. Disorganized document drops and endless data with no roadmap, both high volume and also evasive. It's at the same time too much information, but also omits the most crucial information. The strategy has two predictable outcomes. One, you become consumed. You deep dive. You push to get more information. You stop sleeping. It takes over your life. Your focus narrows until there's nothing else. Gradually, they frack all of your life force. They keep you locked in an endless energy loop in their sick mind games. You become one of their victims. Two, you disengage completely. You decide it's too much, too confusing, too overwhelming. You walk away. It implodes from your exhaustion. Either way, they win.
Yes, and that is for the ones who are not awake, right? What our job is, as those people who are awake, we are taking the knowledge, we are doing deep dives, and we're putting that information right back out there. So we're organizing it and putting it back out to assist in the fight. We're not letting it consume us. We're not letting it dive deep into dark rabbit holes that, you know, at least I'm not. I'm not. Then there might be some people in the resistance who have not quite detached all the way, and they still believe that some of this is real, and so they might let that infiltrate their feelings inside. But for most of us, we're like, we know this is a script. It's not quite. It's not real. But there is some truth to what they're saying on the ground, and so we're not letting it affect us that much. But yeah, you know what I mean. Don't let this shit drive you crazy because they really ain't gonna do nothing about it until we come all together as a collective and we change the narrative. And so, but yeah.
Same here. We received events frozen in fragments. There is no arc, only horrifying snapshot after horrifying snapshot. A nervous system can only hold horror if sequenced, paced, and contextualized. If it is not, it will oscillate, fixate, or shut down. What you are being fed is exposure to terror without containment. Make no mistake, this is psychological guerrilla warfare.
I wish I had a. I wish I could. I wish I had thought of that term, but I'm so going to use it because it is like the best thing to describe what we've been going, what's been happening ever since really Trump got elected to office in what 2016. Ever since Hillary lost, it's literally been psychological guerrilla warfare on the American people, bro. It's been crazy, and it's getting even more deep now that these files are out because if you think about right, where were we at? Slide. What was it? 5, 6, 8. All right, we're going back there. But yeah, if you really think about it, right, is what this is. That's the term spirit cooking. If you could articulate that, it'll be psychological guerrilla warfare. Guerrilla because they're on the ground, right? They're using biological weapons on citizens and so forth and so on, right? But more so because the veil has been lifted from everybody, right? Now you have people with that are coming in with half truths, half information. They're just putting it out there, you know, and spewing it and just really destabilizing the system, right? The system will stabilize, right? And when it does, we're gonna make sure that it flows properly or whatever. But right now, it's been going like and everybody been going everywhere, and it's crazy. But the point is, um, that's a bar, right? It's a bar, and the people that have been crying about, oh, we're going to get arrested, we're going to see deep state, da 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 da. Today, when they had a one of the oversight committees have called in this guy Lex Wessner for some questions or whatever, none of the Republicans showed up, and that was their party that ran on releasing these files, and so the Democrats are showing up, and the Democrats are doing what they're supposed to do. They're not any better, but they're there though. You know what I mean? And so the point is, the system is still continuing. It's just it's recalibrating right now, because yes, you get disclosure, but not you're not getting it from who you thought you was gonna get it from, and you're not getting it how you thought you were gonna get it. Just like we didn't get our first woman president in 2016. You know what I mean? And so it's really sad. But the good thing about it is we are aware of it and we know what's going on. We don't know what's going to happen after the fact, but America is changing, and we are aware now. We know what you look like. We know how y'all organize. We know what y'all do. And so before we didn't know nothing. You know what I mean? But now we know, like, so the government is like this. When powerful people get in positions, they get blackmailed. This is who blackmails them. This is where they come from. They come from, modeling agencies. They come from, um, you know, all types of positions where you would see aesthetically attractive women around men, and the ratio is off. And then they would invite you to come when they see you to do that. So I think it's pretty. I'm excited. I'm here for all of it. We just get these efforts about the way. Yeah. All right. Let's finish. Where we at?
Listen to our lawyer friends when they're talking. Raiders, but to protect fight cases this exact assumed. You deep dive. You push to get more information. You stop sleeping. It takes over your life. Your focus narrows until there is nothing else. Gradually, they frack all of your life force in an endless energy loop in their you decide it's too much, too confusing, too overwhelming. Either way, they win. Same here. We received events frozen in fragments. There is no arc, only horrifying snapshot after horrifying snapshot. A nervous, if it is not, it will oscillate, fixate, or shut down. Terror without containment. Make no mistake, this is psychological guerrilla warfare. When the nervous system is overwhelmed, it seeks relief. This looks like outrage, doom scrolling, obsession, or wanting to throw your phone into the goddamn ocean. Time starts to collapse, days blur together, you check your phone compulsively. You think, I just need to understand this piece. But there is no final piece. There's always another fragment, another horror dangling just out of frame. And you lose your agency.
Not us.
When the trauma cannot be held by the people who used it and cannot be processed by systems designed to contain it, it looks for somewhere else to go. It looks for nervous systems capable of carrying the terror. Mothers are particularly vulnerable to psychological warfare because of our protective instincts. So your body begins to alchemize what the children could not, because we're in a shock of state. And what these men responsible refuse to metabolize. So you feel it. You feel it all. You feel it in your jaw, your gut, your chest. You are weary around your kids. You rage at your partner. You cut out relatives. You feel irritable. You have a headache and you can't sleep. You feel crazy. This is the trance, and it's where they want you. Please know this, super important. You are not crazy. You are having a normal biological response to abnormal psychological warfare. When you name the wave, you start asking, what is being done to me and why? Noticing restores agency. Agency to engage or disengage, to step back, take breaks, to only review synthesis instead of fragments. Agency to refuse to become a landfill for unprocessed violence. You can demand accountability without sacrificing yourself. Justice does not require self-destruction. You are allowed to survive this intact. In fact, that is part of the rebellion too.
Yeah, that's a bar. Yeah, I mean that mama attorney ate that. The only issue that I have is the way that she framed it as just being the men, because it's, again, but it is from her perspective, and she is a female attorney or whatnot. But these women are the ones. These women are the ones who are um, grooming and recruiting your children, right? These women are the ones who are trafficking them, right? And they're trafficking them and they bring them directly. All of these women, they bring them, where that, yeah, they bring them to this guy here, so he can do his thing. And this is a woman trafficker. This is not a victim. She's a fucking trafficker. This is their Lady Kellen, right? Sarah Kellen, whatever, who needs to be under the jail, right? But but yeah, man. And so we focus on men a lot because men they do the things, right? But these women bring them there for the slaughter. They bring them there, hand and foot. They go get their homegirl. Oh, girl, come over here, girl. I got this, lick or whatever, and this nigga about to give me, $400, $500, and all you gotta do is, you know, let him give him a massage or something. That's how it starts. So the motherfucker rape your ass. Take advantage because they're just ruthless like that, right? And these women know that these men cannot control themselves, right? There's something wrong with them. Like there's like the lady talked about the reptile brain, which we do all have a reptile brain, and I would encourage everyone, if you haven't got into NLP, neuro linguistic programming, then you look into that. But only for positive purposes. But look into that. But yeah, man, that's why it's keep happening, because it's some of the women that are out there like that, and some of them look they're conventionally attractive, and Love and Hip Hop, same shit. Love Island, same as well. But and then these guys, I think they're gonna be up next. Andrew and his brother Tristan Tate, because again, attractive, right? Conventionally attractive, both men and the women. This and they have a look about them, bro. They got this look. That's what they look like. Like they just look weird, bro. They got this look that they just been trained for this specific purpose. I wish I could do that, but yeah. But her and him. Now let's get into this article right here, because I believe that he about to be next. So Andrew Tate's model girlfriend and ex-police worker arrested as fellow suspects, right? So this was back 2022, so this was years ago. Obviously still not locked up yet, but they still on him, thank goodness, right? But he has him and a couple models were named. They're dubbed Tate's Angels. They're believed to be the other two suspects arrested in connection with these allegations into human trafficking and allegation of rape. It's claimed that Luana Radu and Georgina Nago were arrested after being named as two of Andrew Tate's closest lieutenants. The Directorate for Investigating Organized Crime and Terrorism. The Romanian government agencies overseeing the investigation are yet to confirm this. So Tate is 36, and his brother, well, he was back in the day, and now he's 34 or whatnot. But it's way too much going on the screen. But yeah, so they were detained by the Romanian police on Thursday after a 600,000 pound Bucharest arrest, and they were in detention for 30 days. But as reported by the Daily Mail, Radu, 32, and Nago was 28, have been arrested in relation to the investigation. According to the terrorism department statement, 4 suspects are accused of creating an organized crime group with the purpose of recruiting, housing, and exploiting women by forcing them to create pornographic content meant to be seen on specialized websites for a cost. This is interesting though. So Radu, who also goes by the name of Ellie Deli on social media, is a former sub-inspector for the Romanian police. She quit the force 8 years ago to pursue a career in video chat rooms. So she's his administrative assistant, and she helps him manage his 100 million pound business empire. The other lady, Nago, has been described as a businesswoman who's in a relationship with him. um, after he moved to Romania about 5 years ago, and she's helped him, and they form romantic bonds, and they're pretty much um, figures in Romania. But again, it's they got a look about them, right? Most of them are. I mean, I'm not going to get the physical characters, but they're super tall, and it's just network. It's just network is what it is, and these people are problems, and so hopefully they will stay on his ass, and hopefully the lady who left from the police department, hopefully she went undercover. I really hope she did. You feel me? I really hope she did, because this guy needs to be stopped. But this is the now that we have the files, now that we know what the organized structure looks like, now it's not gonna be so easy to convince us that you know people are you know we just gotta stay vigilant like we're doing. So, but of course, why is this important? It's important because the definition of a psychological campaign or an operation is the intentional. Remember that it's the intentional. They're trying to do this to us. It's not a mistake. It's intentional. I want you to see this, right? Shaping of attention, meaning, and behavior through propaganda, narratives, symbols, and experiences. Okay, why is this important? We control our minds, no spirit cooking, and we are equipped with information. And we're able to notice the patterns and take control of the narrative. That's the most important part, right? Being able to understand what's going on, who's doing it, who's been doing it, how we've been fooled, and how it affects us locally, so to speak, right? So now we know what to look out for locally. We know who to look out for locally and the connections locally. Okay? And so they're not what you think they are. Okay? So everybody can get it. Okay? And so now that we know and we're aware, I hope everybody is staying focused, not letting them spirit cook us. I have another video, but this video right here is just a video of a rose, a type of rose, an invasive
This is
species.
Lenny Farley, Purdue University Extension Forester. Now let's ID that tree. In this edition,
We'll just play it 2 minutes. Hold on.
This is Lenny Farley, Purdue University Extension Forester. Now let's ID that tree. In this edition of ID That Tree, we're going to take a look at a non-native and very invasive bramble species we can find here in Indiana and the Midwest, and that is multiflora rose. Multiflora rose is arguably one of our worst invasives on the landscape, being very competitive, particularly in full sunlight conditions with native vegetation.
Oh, shit. Sorry. I'm not quite sure what I just did right there. I was trying to speed it up.
This is Lenny Farley, Purdue University Extension Forester here in Indiana and the Midwest, and that is multiflora rose. Multiflora rose is arguably one of our This is Lenny Farley, one of our worst invasives on the landscape, being very competitive, particularly in full sunlight conditions with native vegetation, and able to even climb up into trees and shrubs a considerable distance. So we do have several native roses, and we'll talk a little bit about how to tell multiflora rose apart from those natives. So multiflora rose has alternate leaf arrangement, compound leaves with oftentimes 7 leaflets, but sometimes can be 5 to 9. 7 tends to be the most common number, though. Very sharply hooked thorns. And these can make multiflora rose almost impenetrable in terms of trying to get through the thickets that it forms. Another characteristic that can help us separate multiflora rose from our native roses is right at the base of the leaf. And so we've got this little structure at the base of the leaf, which is a widening wing called a stipule. And along the edge of the stipule on multiflora rose, we have little hairs projecting off away from the stipule. That is characteristic of multiflora rose, but is absent on our native roses.
Absent.
So our native roses will have a stipule, but you will not see those little hairs extending clear back to the base of the leaf. Very good characteristic for separating the two.
That's important.
Another thing we can look at is the fruit.
Yeah, there you go.
And so multiflora rose has clusters of multiple white to pinkish flowers in the spring, and the flowers are relatively small, less than an inch in diameter oftentimes. And they produce these clusters of rose hips that are also quite small. Our native roses will produce larger pink flowers, although fewer flowers in a cluster, and the fruit tend to be much larger as well, and fewer fruit in a cluster also.
All right, that's the entire point I wanted to make. Now we all know that, of course, roses have thorns, and roses are considered, attractively, standardly beautiful, right? But there's levels to these things of beauty, right? And these non-native species that come in here, and I'm not saying anything, but I'm just saying these people with the evil spirits and the evil inside, right? Those are the ones who have beauty. They come in and they prey on the things around them, and they terrorize it, right? They infect it, and they make it really bad, and they get small fruits and small flowers. They corrupt everything. But if you have someone who's innately beautiful soul, a beautiful aura, respects people, loves every people, and still conventionally beautiful, well, things around them grow and they blossom, right? And this is what you can also notice if you look at people around you, and notice the people around them and how they act. And I thought that was a very good presentation, sort of a visual way to do it. So other than that, this has been about 50 something minutes, and so I wanted to present that as a series, or not a series, but just a sort of a video, an organized pedophilia and grooming. Let you know that it's not like it used to be. We see you now. We know what you look like. We know who you are, and we're gonna be on board, right? So I'm trying to blame it on nobody else but what it is. And other than that, stay focused, right? Don't let them spirit cook us. We know that this is all part of psychological programming, and we are aware of that. We are on it, and yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any other questions, let me know. All right, deuces.